Are up and running on the air. There you go. We are live. Hello, peace lovers and peacemakers. This is Sarah Jamshidi with Matin Rokhsefat. Welcome to Peace Mindedly, a podcast featuring the best of peaceful bridge makers. So you know that today is the first day of Ramadan. I am super excited and excited for many reasons. I'm going to explain why. But in this month, Muslims pray, and it is a month of prayer, purification, and tranquility. Muslims try to slow down during this month so they can pay more attention to spirituality and cleansing. In fact, we have no choice but slow down because we abstain from food and drink from dawn to dusk. Depending on where you live, depending on where we live, we can fast anywhere between 12 hours to 21 hours. For us in Seattle, it is about 16 hours. When my non-Muslim friends find out that I fast for such a long time, they are perplexed and in awe. However, I would refer to my favorite poem by Rumi, Jalaluddin Rumi, that I remember frequently during this month. It is empty out your belly from food to see God's light in it. شکم از طعام خالی کن که در آن نور خدا بینی. Nevertheless, I am starving until I can put food in my mouth. Ironically, I only think about food and nothing else, let alone God's light. For the same selfish reason, we've decided to talk about our favorite subject for our first Ramadan episode, and that is food. Recipes for Refuge, a culinary journey to America. I'm going to say it again. This is the book here I have. Recipes for Refuge, culinary journeys to America is a book published by Refugee Women Alliance, short for ReWA, a non-profit organization in Seattle. Here for this hour, we have three main people who helped to put this book together. I must personally thank Joanne Wolby, communication manager of ReWA, who helped us relentlessly to book these three very busy people. So please, I am welcoming Mahnaz Korean Shatu. Hello, Mahnaz. Mahnaz is the executive director of ReWA. She looks after the funding process for ReWA and is responsible for raising capital for their center. Under her leadership, the organization was professionalized and was able to grow its budget from 6 million in 2013 to 10 million in 2019. Before joining ReWA, Mahnaz served as board chair. She also served in a few organizations, including a council member of the Key Bank National Advisory Council and treasurer for the Youth Development Executives of King County. Welcome, Mahnaz.
Thank you. Glad
Absolutely.
To be
here. Yes, very good. Joining Mahnaz is Thoa Nguyen, a chef. Let me bring Thoa here. Hello, Thoa.
Hello.
Hello, a chef, restaurateur, and Northwest culinary influencer. Born in Saigon, Vietnam, she moved to Denver, Colorado as a refugee with her family when she was 11 years old. She settled in the Pacific Northwest in 1991 and made Seattle her home. A serial entrepreneur, Chef Thoa, opened her first restaurant, Shenoy, I'm trying to pray Shenoa Cafe, yes, in 1996. Since then, she has been involved in developing Chinese and Vietnamese cuisine in the Greater Pacific Northwest, one of the most populous regions for Asian Americans. I'll be picking up on the recent spate of hate crime against Asians in the U.S. in general and Seattle in particular. And I'm going to ask Thoa, Mahnaz, and Betina's feedback about the hate crime that we are dealing with. Our final guest is, let me bring Betina into our screen, is Betina Simmons. Hello, Betina.
Hello.
Betina grew up in the culturally rich household in a diverse part of Seattle with a Danish mom, American dad, and Japanese stepfather. Bettina enjoys using her marketing and creative skills to help nonprofit organizations such as ReWA conduct special projects. Bettina serves as the board of directors at Seward Art Clay Studio and volunteers for environmental and sustainable projects. Retina was one of the main forces behind Recipes for Refuge to be published in Seattle. So I am super, super excited, ladies. First, I really would love to go to food because I can't wait. So, Thoa, I want to know, what is your most favorite dish in Vietnamese or Chinese cuisine?
Well, I have to say the first thing in my mind is always pho because it's it's so it's such a simple dish, one bowl dish. It has so much complexity as far as flavor and textures and um, condiments and herbs that you can add to it. It is full of proteins and n- nutrient, and it's just a very tasty and very satisfying dish for one simple bowl,
So
and
how
very
how how
healthy.
do you how do you how do you make pho or pho?
It does consist of almost 6 hours, and so it you start out with beef bone. You have to simmer it, and there's a little bit of a technical where you don't want to overboil or it will make the broth cloudy. You want it to simmer just the right amount of heat, and you want to simmer it for at least 6 hours. And then you have to roast your onions and your garlic. I mean your ginger, no garlic. Roast onions and ginger to add onto the broth. And the final hour, you wanted to roast the five spice, and I believe that's star anise, fennel, cardamom, cinnamon, cloves, and you wanted to roast it and then add it into the broth on the last hour. Otherwise,
Mhm.
your broth will be too strong or too dark.
Oh, wow. So is this, I think in a pre-interview we did, you said that this is a very light, easy on stomach kind of food that can be prepared and eaten during Ramadan. Huh?
Yes, I mean it's light, it's healthy, and it's very 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 good to have as a meal.
Excellent. So awesome. So talking of food, Mahnaz, I know that you, for the book, you were talking about Fesenjoon or Fesenjoon, as we call it in Iranian cuisine. As it's sort of an expensive dish, isn't it? So how do you make it, and why you decided you would like to go with Fesenjoon rather than Zeresh Polo or the soury berry or anything, or qeime, the other particular stews? Why Fesenjoon?
Um, because it's easy to make for me, and I think my also the group that was working with us, Bettina and all the wonderful volunteers who were working with us, they looked at the recipe and they liked it. Um, so um,
So
so
how,
it's
how do you make Fesenjoon? How do you make it? Tell me.
so it's yeah. I'm always, as a busy woman, I'm always looking for something that could be made easily. And so Fesenjoning has, the recipe includes pomegranate, walnut, chicken or meat or whatever you like, apples and carrots, olive oil, and lots of spices, which is saffron, cinnamon, turmeric, salt and pepper and those things. But the way I make it, which is easier, is that I will cook the chicken with onions, tons of onions, and turmeric and cinnamon and saffron and all that, and salt and pepper, and set it aside. Then I will kind of grind the walnut and mix it. Also grind apple and carrots, a few apples and carrots, and mix them all together, kind of uh, let them stir them for a little while, and then add pomegranate sauce, and then let it cook for about 20 to 30 minutes. So it's something easy for me to put together. It's delicious, and it's and it's also something that, as during the winter and fall, it's a good food, and it's also very nutritious.
Yes, for sure. So I wonder, how about you, Bettina? What is your Mahnaz? First of all, I just got so hungry after Fesenjoon and after fall. I am still just super hungry right now. I don't know how I can stay. I mean, contain myself until 8 o'clock. But Bettina, what is your favorite dish to cook? Do you have any of the recipes that you can pick from the book?
Yes, there are so many. In fact, I really enjoy Thoa's chicken salad. That's a very nice light dish that has lots of herbal notes that I really enjoy. And I really enjoy the jiaozi as well, which are Chinese dumplings that have mushrooms and different spices. Seafood is probably my very favorite thing. I like to make gualux. My mother's from Denmark, so I do a lot of Scandinavian cooking. And that actually isn't really cooking because it's cured salmon. It's salmon that's cured with salt and sugar and spices. And I usually use juniper and dill and other things like that. And it takes about 3 days. It's something that I usually make for the holidays. That
So it
my
takes
family
about
enjoys.
three days, Bettina?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You just coat the salmon with the sugar and salt and spices, and weight it and flip it once or twice a day for 3 days, and at the end of that, you have a beautiful dish.
Wow, my goodness!
Yeah. And I love anything with cardamom. That's my favorite spice.
Me too.
Which is fun because all throughout recipes for Refuge, cardamom is a spice that's used in so many cultures, and that was really fun to see.
Okay, so I wonder, why a cookbook to write, and why refugee women, Mahnaz? Why cookbook and why refugee women?
Well, a cookbook happened because we were doing fundraising to build an addition to our main office. And our capital campaign manager at that time, was friends of Betina and many other wonderful ladies who wanted to help. So we were in one. There was as I remember, there was a party cooking party that we all went. One of our clients, who is from Somalia, was cooking there, and we started talking about how wonderful it is to have this, if it is possible to have recipes of, from all over the world. And one of the ladies who was in that party, she is a cookbook author. So Betina and they gathered a few other wonderful volunteers who helped us put this cookbook together. And I have to say, my only contribution was just this recipe. Everything that happened was the work of Betina and Thoa and many other volunteers who helped us put this cookbook together. And it was an instrument for fundraising our galas, and we sold quite a few of them, and helped our capital campaign.
Excellent. So Bettina, how did you choose the people and the chefs or people who were contributed to this cookbook?
Well, most of the contributors are clients or employees of ReWA, actually. And so what we did to reach them, we went to ESL classes, we went to potlucks, sort of end of class celebrations. And we went to several different locations, and we went during the day and we went during the evening, because a lot of people had a hard time making it to class because they're working or they had childcare issues, that sort of thing. So we had a group of volunteers go around and actually interview students at these ESL potlucks, which was really a wonderful experience. At first, it was a little challenging to get people to participate. I think there was maybe a little bit of fear or timidity. And so, but once one person agreed to be interviewed, and once we were able to explain, what a cookbook is, not everyone knew what a cookbook or a recipe was. And beyond understanding the food, we wanted to understand the journey stories of these students and how they ended up in this country from where they came. And then the floodgates really opened, and we had people lining up to tell their stories and to share their food with us. And it was just a beautiful, incredible experience.
Beautiful and incredible experience, of course. So when Thoa was explaining pho, so I was thinking exactly the same matter that you just explained, Betina, the journey of a dish that becomes I think has become mainstream. Pho has become, I eat pho. I know many people eat pho. So if we just think about the journey of how pho became a dish in the United States that many of us know, how would you explain the journey? How did you introduce to pho from your experience, Thoa?
Well, when we first come to the United States, there was very scarce of ingredients. So we basically, every single family, Vietnamese refugee family, were cooking pho at home. And we're, growing the herbs because you can't get the herbs at the market yet. And we would invite some neighbor come over, have some pho, right? Sharing food. And then I think thankful there was some very smart businessmen starting in LA realized there was a market to bring these ingredient into America, because we have floodgate of all these Vietnamese coming in from Vietnam. And I think with that you start seeing restaurant within just the Vietnamese community start to come out and doing pho, because that is our traditional food to eat when you go eat out. But then also at the same time, there was many soldier veteran from Vietnam, even though, whether they believe in the war or not, they were longing for the flavor of the food, the cuisine and the people. So they would gather and go to this pho restaurant and bringing friends with them to introduce the food. And before you know it, pho is now a very popular item. And it's a crossover now. So it doesn't have to stay in the community of Vietnamese anymore. It literally are basically, would you like to go eat pizza, tacos, or pho, right? Or sushi. So it become one of the choice of dining now.
Yes, one of the foods that I can think of, maybe Mahnaz can comment on that, is kebab. So in the kebab became one of the mainstream dish.
Right.
And it's started from Mediterranean, and it's a special kind of cooking procedure takes place to cook kebab. But we have kebab as probably the same story as pho, that has proceed until become mainstream. For this, for the matter of moving on with the conversation, I would love to learn more about ReWA. What is ReWA, and how did it started, and where it's right now, Mahnaz?
So it's interesting, and it's really exciting that you have Thoa in here. ReWA is an abbreviation for Refugee Women's Alliance. ReWA started 35 years ago by a refugee woman who became fairly successful. She came from Vietnam and she was a teacher there. And she wanted to give back to the community. So um, she kind of employed her daughter and two of her friends, and they started ReWA with $35,000. And and one program, which was our ESL classes, the language classes. Soon they recognized that domestic violence is happening quite a bit in Seattle area. So they added the domestic violence. So by then they run out of the money that they had. That 35,000. They were about to close the doors, but then there were a couple of friends born and raised in the United States, Caucasian, who helped them write another grant. And over the past 35 years, we were able to expand the Refugee Women's Alliance, who was at that time started with helping Southeast Asian, to an organization that is providing a holistic system of services to remove barriers to acculturation and success in the United States. So ReWA, now we're serving people from all over the world, and we are not only serving women, we're serving the whole family. So I like to say that ReWA is, our services is for the whole family and from cradle to golden ages. So as you mentioned, we started with 35,000. Our budget is around $10.2 million. We are in 6 different locations in King County, and we have 8 core programs. Which starts, of course, with language classes. We have domestic violence. That with that, they provide immigration, court assistance, behavioral health as well. Early learning center that we provide bilingual. We call it Soy Bilingue. We have 3 centers that provide early childhood education from 0 to 5. We also do provide employment services, housing subsidy assistance, behavioral health, which is much needed as well.
Very good. So in
Youth
the pre
development and immigration naturalization. I'm sorry.
Excellent. Sure, no worries. So in the pre-interview, you mentioned, so going back to being refugee, they are already traumatized by crossing borders or just dealing with whatever it was in their society and arriving to a new nation. And right now we just have lots of stigma against refugees or against immigrants. But you, in our pre-interview, you mentioned hate crime against Asians, a disturbing trend we are dealing with right now. This new spate of hate crime started recently due to the pandemic, and surely former US President Donald Trump describing coronavirus as a Wuhan virus really didn't help the matters. And then how are these horrifying crimes affecting Asian Americans? I wonder. I would like to know Thoa's feedback of whether or not you have dealt with this kind of hate crime, or what is your experience? What is your experience?
Fortunately, where I'm at is very in suburban. I think in most it's you hear it from like in Chinatown, where it's the minority, the more ethnic minorities are there. I hear from my friends, they're elderly, their parents, like they would be walking to the bus stop, things like that, they would get picked on. Or, I have a friend who went into a convenience store and someone will just, pointing his face and making some comments, rude comment, things like that. I don't know if we're just as bad as they say in like LA or New York City, but I do hear from my close friend that they're very upset that their parents, mostly the elderly, I think, are being picked on, and they, some of them I heard actually would carry on like mace with them or something like that,
Yes.
just to protect them. I personally don't have any experience, run into it. But
Yes,
I
I
think that with
mhm,
Trump narrative really escalate, I think,
absolutely.
with the COVID, where people are it's an escape, like they just want to, find some fault or accuse of something to get upset about. But hopefully it's not going to be a big long thing. I mean, I think most Asian we underreport, right? We don't really go out our way to report. We tend to just keep it in ourselves. So it's really hard to monitor and see how it's going. But I
Yes,
think
in the pre-interview I had with Mahnaz, she was mentioning that one of the programs that at least ReWA is supporting is self-defense because of the same issue. Before going to Mahnaz, I would like to get your take, Betina, of how do you see, so as Caucasian, someone who is supporting many of the programs and projects that ReWA is putting together. What is your impression? How do you see this hate crime?
Yeah, I hope that it's the last gasps of the previous regime. Some international students at my son's school were actually approached and yelled at and threatened recently. And so we all wrote letters to the students, just letting them know how happy we are to have them as part of our community and how very welcome they are. I do wonder, along the lines of what Thoa was saying about the underreporting and sort of victimizing a group that tends to underreport is just such a bullying thing to do. But I am heartened by the response from allies in the community who see that this is wrong and are standing up and speaking out in support of our Asian community and against all forms of hate. So I do think too that this younger generation is so accepting. I see positive change, and I hope this is the last gasp of this sort of intolerable behavior.
Same here, same here. And I wonder how food can help us to achieve some of the peaceful relationships between people. So I would like to see, what do you think, Bettina? How food can help us with their peaceful relationships?
Well, like we say in the book, food brings people together. It says, this is who we are. And I think everyone can appreciate good food of all kinds. And I think it's a nice way to introduce different cultures and have people understand that really, while we might eat different things, we all like good food. We all come together around the table, and we're not so different really in the end. I just think it's such a nice entree for people who maybe don't have the opportunity to travel, to develop some curiosity about other cultures and hopefully through that some understanding as well.
Excellent, excellent. So how, Thoa, how food can bring us together, in your opinion?
I just agree so much with what Betina said. It's funny, she said exactly the same thing I've written down here. It's when we step out of our comfort zone and we want to know more about someone else who's different than we are and what they're eating and what is that food is, and we tried it, and then we also want to know a little bit more about other than food, right? Of the culture and things like that. I mean, that's exactly how in America, this is the boiling point. I mean, this is how we melt, we bind together, and we learn about each other culture and our background, and we understood. And once we understand, I think hopefully it will take away the racism, right? Because now we understand and we don't judge people by how they look.
Absolutely.
Right?
So,
Yeah.
Mahnaz, how Fesenjoon can bring us together?
Food is about food, right?
Yes,
In
food.
ReWA, we have 150 staff, and they're all coming from all over the world. So we speak 50 different languages. We get together and bake a bread. We always share food and all that. And that was one of the reasons that we thought, food will bring people together. One thing that we wanted to do with our expansion was to bring the neighbors together and basically do community building, talk about cultures, eat food, celebrate. That's what we do really well at ReWA. And I think I agree with Bettina and Thoa. Food will bring people together because you start the conversation and you learn about each other, and then you see that how culture is close. We're not so much different from each other,
Mhm.
and the
Absolutely.
spices we use, it's just, yeah, it's just being able to, I call it education, educating about each other, learning about each other. And
Yes, absolutely agree. So I volunteered for a few months in ReWA as a ESL instructor, and then at the end of every classes, it was customary, it was a tradition for the students to bring food, that traditional food from their culture,
Mhm.
what they cooked in their houses. And then when we had the table, oh my God, the table was full of different kinds of food, that, and exactly as you say, Mahna. So I really wanted to know what is the ingredients, what the food is called, how we eat the food, and how we interact with the food. And exactly as you are mentioning in the book, that food brings people together. Excellent, ladies. Please stay put with me. You are watching Peace Mindedly, a podcast show featuring peaceful bridge makers, finest peaceful bridge makers in the world. We are live streaming our show across social media. Very easy to find us. Peaceful pod. I mean, it's on Facebook. Facebook, go to Peace Journalism, and also on other social media. Mateen is on the other end taking questions and comments, and also monitoring our conversation. So please write to us if you have any question. If you miss a show or a podcast, it's very easy. Go to goldtune.com, GOLTUNE, and you'll, under podcast section, you'll find many of the interviews that we've done with our guests throughout the year. Actually in about 3-4 weeks, we are going to celebrate the annual anniversary, the first anniversary of podcast. And in fact, one of the guests and one of the speakers we had about exactly a year ago, not exactly, but a year ago, was a celebrity Muslim chef Ivan Maffei. The name of the show was Inspirational Muslim Celebrity Chef, and there Ivan talked about her website and her book, My Halal Kitchen, and she shared lots of very delicious food to prepare and to cook during Ramadan, and many of the very delicious desserts. One of my favorite one was banana date cup. So please do check out Yvonne's interview, and you'll find lots of interesting recipes about in within the Mediterranean cuisine. She talked with us in the south of Turkey. Next week, we will talk to Alan Mikhael, professor of early modern history and Middle Eastern studies at Yale University. His latest book, God's Shadow, Sultan Selim, His Ottoman Empire, and the Making of the Modern World, has been named one of the best books of the year by literary and academic reviewers. One review calls it a stunning work of global history that offers a bold and thoroughly convincing new way to think about the origin of the modern world. In God's Shadow, Mikhail demonstrates that the Ottoman Empire was a hub of intellectual fervor, geopolitical power, and enlightened pluralistic rule. He argues that neglecting Ottoman Empire power and influence in forging a new world is unjustifiable. Next, a week after that, we will talk to Severin Altisere, author of Front Lines of Peace, an insider's view to changing the world. An award-winning author and peace builder, Altisere combines a scholar's rigor and activist passion to tell the story of ordinary men and women who manage to reduce violence within their communities. So this program is especially important to me. One of the reason I'm in war happens and revolution happens and destruction happens after the war. What really matters is how special women within their grassroots communication get together to rebuild the society non-violently and with peace. We are going to review some of those societies by Altisere. Back to this hour, we are talking to Mahnaz Eshatu, Executive Director of Refugee Women Alliance, or ReWA, Thoa Nguyen, chef and restaurateur. Some because of I'm going to blame Ramadan for my pronunciation and not my native Farsi language. Chef and restaurateur, and Betina Simons, a cookbook producer and marketer regularly involved in philanthropist projects. So I am bringing these beautiful ladies into my screen, and I would like to know, Betina. So when you told me that how you decided to which person to include and which person not to include, but were you also, tell me about the book, were you also concerned about the regions of the places that refugees were coming? So let's say, did you really try to cover Mediterranean or Southeast Asian or Chinese? So how did you go about of putting the recipes together?
Yeah, the cookbook really represents the broad spectrum of the people that ReWA serves and who often then come to work for ReWA. So we didn't decide that. It was really who came to us with their recipes and stories. And then, of course, within that, we tried to be as equitable as possible. I think more than 35 countries are represented in the book. So I think we tried to include everyone who wanted to participate within the realm of possibility. It's an all-volunteer project, and we were so fortunate to be able to get a wonderful photo producer and professional photographers and stylists and all of the wonderful, almost all women who contributed their time and talents. So we did have a little bit of limitation that way, but
Sure.
Otherwise we talked to everyone who wanted to talk to us. Absolutely.
Excellent. Mahnaz, is there any particular recipe that you like or you enjoyed in the book?
You know, I enjoyed most of them, and they're all, I would say they're all delicious. And really, I mean, they're all fantastic, depending, and I'll use them quite often when, one day I want Vietnamese, one day I want, something from Somalia, something from Middle East, something from, it's open, and something from Europe, and it's all there.
Excellent. Thoa, what is your recipe in the book?
I think it was the Saigon chicken mango salad, something like that.
Tell me
Okay.
the recipe.
Well, it's shredded chicken that you cook in. I think there was a little bit of a lime zest, garlic, ginger, sesame oil, something like that. I do them differently depending which recipes or what I have. And then you would slice cabbage, mango. You can do it instead. You can do papaya if you like. The herbs play a great notes in this recipe. So I love mint, but some people like to add cilantro or basil. And then there's a recipe. I mean, there is a dressing, which is fish sauce, lime juice, sugar, lime juice, some other things into it. I think sesame oil, and then you just toss it, and then you toss it with the chicken. It's quite fast. And if you don't want to do chicken, you can have tofu. And I literally sometimes do really quick salad without any of the meat, and actually use it on my fish tacos. I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's delicious. You can use it on lots and lots of dish.
Excellent, excellent. Something fast to prepare. So, Mahnaz, speaking of fast and being so busy, what are if you wanted to recommend a dish or a dessert or something for Ramadan? What is your recommendation? Not from particularly from book, but in general.
If I go back to my culture, my tradition, my grandmother used to make, Fesenjoon, of course, and then the tons of other desserts, and also what we call it kufte. It's a Turkish called kebab kufte, but kufte is different in Iran. It's meat and different herbs and different rice and different things attached to it. So I think that was something that we always had, and lots of dessert, lots of dates, lots of it was like
dessert. Tell me about desserts. So what kind of desserts are or is your favorite dessert for Ramadan?
Well, sholezat, it's
There
the
you go.
rice that we
Yeah.
make with saffron and almond, and it's making it really and I think you could also add pistachio into it, and with rose water and other spices. But that's what I like for Ramadan.
Yeah, actually, in fact, I'm going to make sholezat, which we call saffron pudding, for tonight's iftar, because again, it's very easy on the stomach. This is something that I enjoy. Okay, Betina. So, what would you recommend for easy food or dessert for Ramadan for us?
I just saw a recipe in the New York Times. I think it's called kunin gyapa, from a food writer called Yewande Kamalafe. And I've been really heartened to see the New York Times and other publications really promoting more BIPOC writers and more diverse sorts of recipes from all over the world. And this is, it's listed as something that's good for breaking the fast for iftar. And it's a sort of sweet porridge it's nut-based, actually. And that appealed to me to try.
Yeah. So can you share this article with us on social media, so then we can share it with our audience? I'm sure that people would love to see at least what that is, or probably to try. Excellent. So I'm thinking I would love to know, I think we covered the countries, we covered women who were cooking, and we covered ReWA. I want to know if there is anything else you would like to share about your relationship with ReWA and with this amazing organization. I'm going to start with Betina, and then we go to Thoa, and then Mahnaz.
I started volunteering with ReWA after Trump was elected. I had been going to marches, and I wanted to do more. And I was, as a daughter of an immigrant, and having grown up with two people who are not from this country, and then my father's mother also not very far removed from Scotland, it was important to me to do something on that front. And I had a friend who worked for ReWA, Ramla Ringels Olt, who was in charge of their capital campaign. So I called and asked, how can I help? And she said, I would like you to come on as a bridge builder. And that's someone who sort of promotes ReWA to the larger community. And so I joined that way and started helping with things like benefit concerts. And then the cookbook they had asked if I would host a cooking party where this beautiful Somali woman, Rahima, and her sister taught us all to make faris and some other dishes. And one of the people that I invited is Leslie Miller, who's the principal of Girls Friday Productions. And I had put together just a small booklet of recipes for the cooking party. And we spoke, and she said, I would love to help you make a real cookbook. And so that's how it all began. And I had worked for Nordstrom in marketing and had a friend who's still a photo producer for them, Jill Rayner Holdcroft. So everyone just kind of fell into place, and everyone was so happy to help because ReWA does such incredible work. As Mahnaz said, it's really everything from preschool to mental health, domestic violence prevention, citizenship, elder care, job training. It's really remarkable what ReWA is able to do with the resources that they have. And so I feel so lucky to be able to be part of that and to help where I can.
Excellent. So, Thoa, what is your relationship with ReWA, and what would you like us to know about you, the relationship, and the book?
Well, I think I got introduced to ReWA from Teresa. I think she was one of the co-founder. And of course, they also came to my, the organization that I was in, which is Peachtree Vietnam, which demining. And so I, decided to go to the fundraising. And so since then we become, I became as far as just a donor, like just help supporting the cause. And I know it's a great organization when you're a refugee coming to the country because you need help with, the language, the school system, just small or big part of your life to get to the mainstream. And I know ReWA does a really good job on that. When we first came to this country as a Vietnamese refugee, there wasn't really a whole lot of things set up. So we were we had to just figure things out on our own. But with ReWA right now, they work with all kind of refugee now that it's basically moving away from Vietnamese because that's no longer the needs. Now it's, Middle Eastern and, so
Syrian and other refugees, exactly. So,
Right.
Following up with what Thoa and Betina said, Mahnaz, you are ReWA, but of 4 of us here, 3 of us are immigrant, and one refugee. So we know that a tremendous challenge that we face in the host nation. It's not a host anymore. It is our country, our nation. But when we are new, everything is dramatically difficult. So what is your take on why we need an organization like ReWA?
So I like to call ourselves ReWA community builder. We are helping refugees, and refugees have unique needs. They're not here to be on social services or anything. They're here to build better lives for themselves. Despite all those propaganda in the past 4 years, they're, if they didn't face all the challenges, the trauma, war, execution, they wouldn't leave their countries. But they're here to build better lives, and they're doing everything that they can to work harder, to study, and to do whatever it takes to build better lives for their families. And ReWA helps refugees do that. And I think by building a stronger refugee community, we are building better communities in the United States. And because despite, the refugees are coming here with nothing on their back, right? But they're determined, they're resilient, they want to make better lives, and they don't want to stay on social services. They want to get out, and we help them to make that happen. I think that is very important as an immigrant to this country. It was very important for me to give back to the community, to the society, and I wanted to spend the last 10 years of my life serving an organization that does that. And ReWA's mission is just that, to build stronger communities, to help refugees and immigrants build better lives for themselves. And we advocate on their behalf as well, and also help them establish better leadership for them, for themselves.
If anyone want to help ReWA, what are the ways? What should they do?
So there are many ways they can help ReWA, and I think our friends in here, they just said that you could help by just supporting ReWA through funding. You could call, they can go to our website. They can volunteer with ReWA if they want to, and they can also participate in many different events that we have. They can talk about ReWA and advocate on behalf of refugees and immigrants in United States. And right now,
Excellent.
that's what we all need, to bring people together, to remove the negativity about people who are coming from the rest of the world to this country to build better lives for themselves.
Yes, inshallah. Please stay put with me. For this hour, we talked to Mahnaz Shetu, Executive Director of ReWA, Refugee Women Alliance, Thoa Nguyen, chef and restaurant owner in Seattle's Chinatown, and Betina Simmons, cookbook producer and marketer. They all contributed to recipes for Refuge, Culinary Journeys to America. So the signature for our show is ask our guests to share something meaningful about peace, kindness, compassion. That something can be a statement, can be a prayer, can be a story, can be anything that we love them to leave us with a peaceful and kindness feelings in our hearts. So I am wondering who would like to go first. Who would like to go first?
I will.
Okay, excellent, Betina. Go ahead.
So this is a Scottish blessing. My grandmother's family was from Scotland, and it's called the blessing of light, rain, and earth. May the blessing of light be on you, light without and light within. May the blessed sunlight shine on you and warm your heart till it glows like a great fire, so that the stranger may come and warm himself at it, and also a friend. And may the light shine out of the two eyes of you like a candle set in the windows of a house, bidding the wanderer to come in out of the storm. And may the blessing of the rain be upon you, the soft, sweet rain. May it fall upon your spirit so that all the little flowers may spring up and shed their sweetness on the air. And may the blessing of the great rains be on you. May they beat upon your spirit and wash it fair and clean, and leave there many a shining pool where the blue of a heaven shines, and sometimes a star. And may the blessing of the earth be upon you, the great round earth. May you ever have a kindly greeting for them you pass as you're going along the roads. May the earth be soft under you when you rest upon it, tired at the end of the day, and may it rest easy over you when at the last you lay out under it. May it rest so lightly over you that your soul may be out from under it quickly, and up and off and on its way.
Excellent. So may the blessing be upon you. Excellent. Awesome. So Mahnaz, I'm going to go with you and then with Thoa. So what would you like to share with us about peace, kindness, and compassion?
I'm gonna read you a poem from Sadi, a translation of that poem from Sadi, our great philosopher, Persian philosopher and poet. Human beings are members of a whole, in creation of one essence and soul. If one member is inflicted with pain, other members uneasy will remain. If you have no sympathy for human pain, the name of human you cannot retain.
Amazing. This is probably the 5th or 6th times that this poem has been recited in our program. That's amazing. And Thoa, what would you like to share with us about peace, kindness, and compassion?
Well, mine is a little short, but what I like to say is try new food, learn new culture, welcome diversity, and we will all overcome racism in this country.
Amazing. Well said. It's absolutely amazing. I do have Matin with me. Thank you so much. Honestly, I blame fasting for my mispronunciation of the last names. And other than that, I usually do a good job. But I mean, I'm just going to see how everything is going to end until the end of Ramadan. Thank you very much, everyone, for being in our show. It was a pleasure to host you and see you very soon. Thank you. Khuda
Thank
Hafiz.
you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.